sitting here with Dwayne DW Wright
Yeah.
of the famous Wright family, aka the Wright brothers.
Right.
And I know we talked about doing this ever since way back when, and we finally got a chance to sit down and talk to you, and a lot's been going on, since those early days. But let's talk. What are you doing now? What's going on in DW's life right now?
Well, I'm currently working on my second album. It's going to be entitled Speechless. My first record was a mix of instrumental tunes and a couple of gospel songs. This one is strictly instrumental, no vocals, maybe a vocal chant here and there, but no words, no lyrics on this record. I just wanted the music to speak and do all the singing on this record. Working on that. Due to go back out on the road with Jill Scott this summer. I'll be out with her the majority of the summer, coming to a city near you. We'll be abroad, we'll be overseas, Europe, I believe, London, the UK, and then back stateside. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm producing a couple of projects now. I won't speak on it right now, but there's a lot of things coming out. We're churning them out here. Churning them out.
Well, talking about what you've been doing lately in Jill Scott. In between the Jill Scott gigs, the tour, what have you been up to? You've been on TV a lot.
Yeah, I've been doing Saturday Night Live with Future. Was a couple of weeks ago. That was a good experience. Been doing a lot of side playing with the Roots. Shout out to Questlove and the crew. Been doing that. Just finished doing an intense 2-day taping with Revolt TV out in LA. Oh man, 10 artists, 3 songs apiece, 30 songs, 10 artists, no rehearsal. Just learn the music, come ready to play. It's a good experience. It was tough, but it was a good experience. Then on the local scene, I do a lot of shows at SOBs, which is a great venue here in the city. I do gospel soul sessions, which is a gospel show we do there once a month or once every other month. Then I do Soul Village, which is an R&B showcase that myself, Eric Roberson, Daniel Jones, and China Black, we started maybe 13, 14 years ago. So we still keep that going the third Wednesday every month at SOBs. And then I also do BET Music, which is a showcase. It used to be BET Music Matters, now it's BET Music. That's the second Tuesday of every month. So, I'm pretty consistent when I'm here. Yeah.
Now, how do you manage any kind of life with that kind of a schedule? It boggles my mind.
It's hard. It's really, really, really hard. You have to make time. Sometimes you have to create time that almost doesn't exist. A lot of sleepless nights, sleepless days, but I'm conditioned for it, so.
So where are you headed next? What's tomorrow look like for DW Wright?
Tomorrow, I play on Sunday. My Sundays are amazing. I play at St. Paul Community Baptist Church in Brooklyn, East New York, Brooklyn. I do 6 a.m., 8 a.m., and 11 a.m. services every Sunday. Then I leave there. My brother, it's a pastor, Pastor David Wright. He took over my dad's church, and that service starts at 12, but I normally get there around 1. And so I do 6 a.m., 8 a.m., 11 a.m., then I get to my brother's church at 1. And then I have the Sunday to myself.
Oh, my God.
So whatever's left of me gets the rest of that Sunday. So, that's tomorrow, So, yeah, it's nonstop grind.
All right, so now that we know, what you're doing right now, what tomorrow looks like, let's talk about yesterday. Yesterday, how many years ago was that? I met you. I think you may have just gotten out of high school or just getting out of high school, and you were a young player, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, eager to learn. How do you wind up on bass?
I started playing bass. Okay, so a lot of people don't know about me. I was a bit of a nerd coming up, and when I was 10 years old, I never was into music. My brothers, I have three of my 4 brothers play instruments. 2 play drums, 1 play keys. My dad was a singer and an organist as well. My mom sung a little bit. But I never wanted to do music because they all did music. So, you know, when I was 10 years old, and I was in this program called it was Hunter College had a program for inner city youth back in East New York, Brooklyn. So it was about 6 of us. They let us take the PSAT as 10-year-olds, as kids. So I took the PSAT, and we scored. A couple of us scored so high that they let us take the SAT. I scored at 1140, on the SAT when I was 10. So that led to me getting a full medical scholarship to Johns Hopkins University. And my parents felt I was too young. I would have been a college freshman when I was 12 years old. My parents felt like I was too young to do that. So after that, school was, I was still a little nerd, but then the priority of school kind of left me a little bit. So after maybe, a year or two of just trying to decide, I'm 13 years old, trying to decide what I wanted to do. My dad had an engagement, a concert in Washington, D.C., and his bass player didn't show up. And that really hurt my dad. Seeing my dad hurt like that made me never want to see him like that. So I walked up to him on a charter bus, and I said, buy me a bass, and I'll learn how to play. So if you ever get in this situation again, you'll have somebody. We laughed it off, joked it off. A month later, said it again, buy me a bass. Didn't do it. So Christmas of that year came around. He surprised me with a bass. I played for about a month. Maybe not even a month. I played for about 2-3 weeks and I put it down. And then maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, my dad, he literally locked me and my brothers in the church and made us fast and pray and practice for 3 days. And after those 3 days, everything I ever wanted to do on bass just came to me naturally. So then it just built from there.
Now, I've known you 16, 17, almost 20 years? Almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about that, about you. I had no idea. I thought, you coming from a musical family, they just handed you that bass. Because this is what you're going to do. Like the Jackson 5 almost, you know? That's amazing.
Yeah, I started when I was 14.
And I met you probably like 16.
16.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, wow.
It's a long time ago, man.
Oh my God. And look at you now, man. I've been able to watch you grow as a man and as a musician. And, your parents would absolutely be proud of the man who's sitting before the camera today. I can guarantee you that.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. I remember, we had lost, you and I had lost contact briefly. And I specifically remember seeing you at the Freeport train station on the platform.
Yeah, yep.
You were going to a rehearsal. You were playing with Flowetry.
Yep.
And you told me, I'm like, damn, this guy's a professional already. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Now, how did that come about?
The Flowetry thing happened. The music community is so small, and a lot of us that are touring musicians, the majority of us come from church, or we have church backgrounds. So, through playing with China Black and Jessica Wilson, and I played with Nelly, prior to that point, I made some connections and wound up, being cool with a lot of people. And one in particular was my good friend, Spanky, George McCurdy, who was the drummer for Flowetry at the time. And at this time, Ty Tribbett's brother, Thaddeus Tribbett, was Flowetry's bass player. And he was leaving to go full-time on the road with his brother. So they had a week of engagements here in New York. It was, I'll never forget, it was the third or fourth week in March in 2005. And they had a string of gigs, and Spanky asked me, was I available to do the gigs? So I told him, yeah. And it was only supposed to be those 4 gigs, and that was it. And then they would figure out their bass situation after that. Those first 4 gigs, I guess, turned out pretty well, and which turned into a 2-year stint with them.
So basically what you're saying is, if you had to say something to any young up-and-coming player who's looking to be a road musician, make his life in music, I guess you would say that networking is absolutely the key.
It's absolutely the key. It's nice to be nice. You know, it's a lot of things. Part of it is your playing is definitely important, because when you get the opportunity, you have to blow through the door. You have to knock it out the park. But a lot of times you won't get that opportunity if people genuinely don't like you. So being a likable person and being coachable, being approachable, being somebody that other musicians or other people, period, just want to be around is very, very important. Being professional, timeliness, coming prepared. If someone sends you music, learn the music. You know, it's so much to being a musician than just picking up your instrument. Because I know a lot of guys that can pick up this bass right here and play stuff that I'll never be able to play. But if I call them for a gig and tell them to be there at 7, they'll show up at 7:30 every time. And eventually, you're going to be home and broke and mad.
So essentially what you're saying, it's very important to have a good work ethic.
Yes, sir.
As a musician. Yeah, it's a job.
It's a job.
You know, and I think that's important, because I'm sure, you know, when we put this out there, this video out there, there's going to be a lot of young people, a lot of your young followers, who you have many of,
Yes, sir.
who are going to hear that. And that's going to be valuable information.
Very important.
Which is, you know, part of the purpose of us sitting together also, to get your greater word out there. You know.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of your followers, you know, I'm not going to call these guys followers, but every time I come here, I run into an amazing bass player. I've met C.J. Alexander,
Yes, sir.
Josh Easley, Marcus Reddick.
Yeah.
Yeah, who else is out there lurking? That's a monster, because these guys are monster players.
There's some guys out here. Jay White.
Jay White, amazing player, amazing musician.
Musician, singer, drummer, everything. It's another one, Devon Denegal, another young gun out here. Man, there are a lot of guys here, but even beyond here, like some of my favorites, Justin Raines, Bubby Lewis, Dow Freeman, Michael Tiny Lindsay will always be one of my favorites, man.
Tiny.
Man.
Tiny's a legend.
He's a legend.
Already. You know, he was a legend when I met him at 18.
Yep.
He scared the hell out of me at 18.
Yeah, man. So it's a lot of guys out here that can really, really play. It's just, you know, it's rare that you see musicians, other than drummers. You see it in drummers, you know, shed together all the time.
Right.
But for other musicians to come together and play together and learn from each other, it's something that I've always enjoyed doing. So that's why you can come to my house any day of the week, anytime. It's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you may see 2 or 3 bass players here just going for it. You know, but it's not competition.
Right.
It's, you know, we learn from each other, we glean from each other. So, you know, and we all have different voices.
Right.
So it makes sense. It's just a happy conversation when we all talk, because we all talk differently.
I get the sense, I've always gotten the sense that, you know, younger cats coming up, you know, you kind of mentoring these people.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, you know, I feel I didn't have a lot of that coming up, especially as a musician. There were a couple guys, like Reggie Young, Dominique Maybanks, Vincent Wilson. There are a couple of guys that, you know, took the time, Anthony Courtley, that took the time to pour into me and to kind of guide me along the right path. And then somewhere, you know, whether we got disconnected or just priorities, you know, as a gigging musician, you know, it happens. You lose contact with people, which is, you know, it's not a slight to anyone. And even yourself, Dave. You know, there's a lot of bass players that I gleaned from, and that's important, because if I didn't have that, I don't know what my path would have been, and I probably wouldn't be working the way I am now. But I learned valuable lessons when I was young, because I had someone to kind of guide me, or to even if I talked to them once, twice a year, that conversation carried me for the next time till the next time I saw them. So, you know, I'm big on mentoring, and I'm big on helping the younger guys, because I'm not going to be able to do this forever. I'm gonna have to pass what I'm doing to somebody else. So I'd rather they be equipped for it, as opposed to you know, they get the opportunities, and then the music industry fall. Because if they do bad, we all do bad. It makes us all look bad.
Well, that's a tremendous statement that demonstrates, you know, an amazing humility in someone of, you know, your young years. You're 33, but a young man, younger than I am. But, you know, that's another important thing to hear, because when I started playing bass some 30 odd years ago, the only people you came across who could play were professionals.
Yeah.
You know, bass players were few and far in between.
Yeah.
And that you're telling these players, you know, hey, there's information available from other players, you know, and you're there to learn from. That's an important message.
Yeah.
You know, very important message. All right. So, anyone who knows anything about you, they know that you're the son of Pastor Timothy Wright,
Right.
and Pastor Betty Wright.
Yep.
Now, can you give us an idea? You know, what was it like growing up in a house?
It was great. I mean, you know, I don't have nothing else to compare it to, cause,
Right.
You know, but I'm the youngest of the 5 Wright brothers, and you know, my parents, they were funny people together, because you know, my dad was such the classic alpha male, the dominant person, but my mom was whatever the female equivalent of that was. That's what she was. So it worked. It just worked. It wasn't a situation where, you know, my dad was the big bad wolf and then my mom was the one babying us. No, some of our worst beatings, some of our worst, you know, discipline came from mom.
Yeah.
And my dad would be like, Betty, it's okay. So, you know, it was a great experience. My mom didn't cut her teeth. She didn't bite her tongue for anybody. So, you know, it was good. When you were doing something wrong, you instantly knew you were wrong. No matter, you know, what the situation was, she was going to chastise you and let you know that was wrong. With love, though.
Right.
She did it with love. And my dad was the same way. So, you know, it was great experience growing up with them.
Right. You know, I grew up in a house full of boys too. I got 4 brothers too.
Nice.
And the stories I could tell you about that, you know, you know. But you know, yeah, obviously there was a lot of music coming out of the house.
Yeah, definitely. My dad, you know, music was everything to my dad. You know, my mom not so much. She was more into. You know, my mom, she went to the Fashion Institute, so she was into fashion, and then later on she went to Bible school, Owen Kelly Institute. So she was more into the schooling and education and all that stuff. My dad was a music head though, completely music head. You know, a lot of people, they knew my dad as a pastor, a gospel singer, but before all of that, he was a great piano player and a great organist as well. So, yeah, it was a steady diet of music in my house.
Now, once you started playing bass, yeah, I know you once told me you're going to South Korea with your parents, and that completely blew me away.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, like these young kids, you know, jet setting already.
Yep.
You know, he's seeing the world as a player already.
Spain, we went to Spain a couple times. It was great experiences, and I hadn't even reached 20 yet.
Yeah, I can only imagine, you know, the music that you heard, you know, traveling at such a young age.
Yep.
You know, I can only imagine, you know, how much it helped you grow as a player, just being exposed
Yes, sir.
to all these different cultures at a younger age.
Yes, sir.
Wow. Now, I just want to switch gears a minute and you talk about, you know, your parents passing, and I remember when it happened, of course, and the only thing I could think of is, you know, like, you know, what are they going to do now?
Yeah.
You know, how are they going to, you know, go on after such a devastating loss? Not just your parents, but your nephew.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, it was, you know, terrible tragedy. You know, and you know, somehow the family seems as if it's pulled out.
Yeah.
And
it made us stronger. You know, it was because my parents, you know, with church, most churches are family businesses. So my dad's ministry and my mom's ministry was a family business. So we all were involved in it one way or another. So for them to instantly be plucked out, and for those that don't know, my parents were hit head on by a drunk driver, and my mom and my nephew died in the accident, and then my dad died 9 months later from his injuries. So for them to be plucked out instantly, if it kind of, it's never a good thing, but it forced us to establish all of our own identities, as not just as professionals, but as men. We had to all, we had to put on our bootstraps and live. So it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It's hard. It's still hard. I think about them every day, but they left us with more than enough to live off of for the next 50, 60 years, or however long we're gonna be here. So, yeah, it was a rough time, but we made it through it.
I can see their guidance in the way you conduct yourself today.
Yes, sir.
I've been thinking about this for years, and I've always wanted to talk to you about it. Because I lost my father when I was 28, and I thought I'd never survive it.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what you had to go through.
Yeah.
But look where you are today. It's a testament.
To everything that they did, the foundation that they laid. If it wasn't for the foundation they laid, I would not be doing half of what I'm doing now. So I'm completely grateful for all of it.
It's absolutely amazing. Now, as a player, you've been quietly sneaking up on the industry for years.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Jill Scott. There's obviously a kinship there.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit.
I started with Jill in maybe October of 2007. My good friend Adam Blackstone, BB Entertainment. You see him; he's everywhere. He does everything with everybody. He called me to cover a couple of shows for him with Jill. I had never. Before I tell the story, I always used to, if I seen an artist or I seen some of my friends playing with different artists, I would always say, I'm gonna do that gig one day. If I really wanted it, I would say, I'm gonna do that gig one day. And sure as my name is Dwayne, it's always come true. Every time I said it. So I was watching, they had did a taping on VH1, and I was watching, I said, I would like to do that gig one day. Randomly, maybe 2-3 weeks later, Adam calls me, asks me to sub for him. And the trick was, I wasn't going to have a chance to rehearse. So I had to learn the music that he sent me and be ready to do the show. So, that's one of my calling cards, one of my greatest gifts is my retainment. I've been able to, I've done gigs where I've learned 20 songs in a day and had to play them that night. I've learned them that morning and had to play them that night. And I've played them flawlessly. Just because, that's something that I've worked on. That's something that I prayed for. So that's something that, I think is one of the greatest gifts that God has given me. So I did the show. I did the first show. And it turned out good. It was in Houston, Texas. It was for the Bailey's tour that Jill was doing. The show turned out well. I had a couple of friends there. Chris Dave was there. And my boy Gary Mays was in the building. And, having them there kind of made me nervous, but it helped me because I knew they would be honest with me to tell me if I did a good job or not. So, played the show, and I went to them. I said, how was it? And, they gave me the honest feedback. And from there, that me covering 1 or 2 shows for Adam turned into me taking over the gig for Adam. So, and that was 2007. So 2007 and 2008, I was with Jill. Then I went back about 2010. I went back again 2011. And then for a while I didn't, I wasn't with her. But then I went back 2014. And now we're in 2016 and I'm still with her. So it's been off and on for almost 9 years.
That's an amazing opportunity right there.
Yep.
All right, so you become kind of like like the who's who of bass players now. Yeah, I've seen you play with funk gigs, the gospel, of course, hip hop.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how do you get to that point where you're so flexible?
Well, just from being exposed to, a lot of different genres of music, growing up with my brothers playing, and then just being gospel music is a gateway for a lot of these genres. So playing that stuff is gospel music is probably the most difficult style of music, just because there's such a grit to it and such an aggressiveness to it, especially nowadays, that it keeps you on your toes, playing wise. So from playing gospel music, and then once I started playing with Flowetry was a great experience for me. It was kind of like my break into the mainstream industry. But playing with Spanky, and then playing with Junius Burvine, who is one of the greatest keyboard players that I've ever played with in my life. Man, I've learned so much from him, playing with Ray Holloman, Jersey, James Mason, Eric Booty Green. That was the squad that we toured with for about 2 years with Flowetry. And navigating through that, coming directly from playing mostly church, it gave me a sensitivity to different styles of music, especially neo soul and hip hop, because Flowetry is a combination of the two. So that gig kind of set the table for my style of playing.
Okay, so that led into the Jill Scott gig.
Yep.
In between Jill, what's the resume like?
In between Jill, I've done Music Soul Child, Backstreet Boys, Diddy, Dirty Money, Eminem. Who else have I? On the gospel side, Mary. I toured with Mary, off and on since 2007 as well. Donnie McClurkin, great experience. James Hall, Worship and Praise. It's probably aside from playing for my dad, that's the longest gig I've had. I played with James Hall for maybe 12 years. So if anybody knows James Hall's music, it's a challenge. But it was, it's been good times, man. I've played for, worked with, I've recorded with Jay-Z, I've recorded with Beyonce, I've toured with Timbaland. Yeah, it's been a good ride. Nelly, like I said earlier. I've been blessed to have some great experiences out here.
Now I know you go back and forth across the pond to England.
Yes.
What's the deal with that?
Well, I was in a band called the United Nations of Sound with Richard Ashcroft. Richard Ashcroft was the front man for the band The Verve. I think their big hit was Bittersweet Symphony.
Yeah.
So, and it's another, just, being around story. A good friend of mine, Kevin Randolph, and was here for a memorial service with the producer No ID, and them two were producing Richard Ashcroft's new solo venture. So I just went. It was a Sunday night. I just went to hang out with Kevin for a couple hours, and then I was gonna go home. I was tired. I didn't want to be out. I had a suit on. So, and at the time I had a black Escalade. So they were going to the studio, Chung King Studios, which is now closed, but Chung King Studios was a prominent studio here in the city. So going from the memorial service to the studio, they were going to take a cab. I said, yo, I'm not doing nothing. I'll take y'all to the studio, and then I'll go home. So I drive them to the studio, and on the way, Kevin was like, hey, man, you got your bass with you? I said, yeah. He said, man, you should come upstairs and play on the song. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to the studio, and as we're getting out the car, Richard, to no offense, thought I was a driver because I had the black suit on, the white shirt, tie. I looked like I was the delivery driver. So he thought I was a driver, and he sees me take my bass out. He said, "Wow, the driver plays bass." And he just, the whole night, he kept saying, "Wow, I can't believe my driver plays bass." He kept saying it all night. I go upstairs and I played a song, and me playing one song for Kevin and for No ID turned into me playing 11 of the 12 songs on the record. And then after that, a couple months later, Richard approached us and said, "I want to start a band, and I want you to be the bass player in my band," which turned out to be a great, great, great experience. One of my favorite touring experiences of my life was doing United Nations of Sound.
That's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we did. We toured Europe, we toured Asia, the Summit Sonic Festival in Japan. We did a few dates here in the States, but it was a great time, great experience.
All right. All right, let's take some time. Let's talk about your bass. Yeah, you and I, once again, everybody knows we go back years, and I put you into an instrument, years ago, that you played for a long time, and you play in New York Bassworks, RS5, and those are made by Dave Siegel, New York Bassworks, and
what's up, Dave?
He had called me a little over a year ago and told me he was working on something, and didn't tell me what it was. I went over, checked out the prototype of the bass you have there, and the first call I made was to you. Because I'm like, you know what? This has got DW's name written all over it.
Nice.
And that's kind of where, we come back together.
Yeah.
In 2015, 2016, to kind of pick up where we left off. Because I knew I always wanted to collaborate with you in particular on an instrument. Because I knew all the various forms of music you were playing.
Yeah.
And I knew that if we can get something into your hands, that could be your one instrument, then, we hit a home run.
Yep.
So, what are your feelings on the instrument so far?
Everybody, for people that know me, I've been known to play other basses, shall remain nameless today. But since I've gotten this bass in January, I think I've played. I have seven basses, 7 bass guitars, and they all have a different personality. They all mean something to me. I haven't played none of them. I haven't been able to put this one down. Only because it gives me everything I need for all my gigs. I play gospel, I play R&B, I play funk, I play hip-hop. I play a little bit of jazz here and there. But this covers every base. And that's important. Especially the type of musician I am, where I'll fly to LA tomorrow to do an R&B gig, and then I'll fly from LA to Texas to do a gospel gig, and then fly from Texas to Detroit to do a hip-hop gig. So as opposed to me carrying 3 different instruments, I can just carry one that can cover all the bases. And that's priceless to me.
And when Dave was telling me about the bass, and that was always, his intent, to give a player one instrument that can cover
all the bases.
Everything, everything you want to do.
Yep.
And I think he really hit it.
Yeah, he hit a home run with this. The Tiger Shark, as James Ross would call it. Yeah, he definitely hit a home run completely with this. The weight of it is amazing. The playability of the neck is amazing. The features of it, amazing. There's no tone that I can't get out of this bass. Yeah, I'm extremely ecstatic about New York Bassworks. Will be my bass home forever.
Well, we appreciate that, and I just want to let everyone else know that stay tuned for a video interview with the builder, David Siegel of New York Bassworks. That's coming in within the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank Dwayne DW Wright for his time, his patience over the years, and just his support. Because I wouldn't be back in this business if it wasn't for your support.
So you deserve to be in this business. And I'm going to tell y'all, Dave Beasley's going to have a record coming out, because Dave Beasley is the best bass player that I know personally. He is the best. I say it all the time. I've said it for years. He is the best. He don't play for nobody. He's behind this camera. But Dave Beasley is a beast to be reckoned with. And y'all gonna find out if I have to sneak and make him do it.
No pressure. Thanks again, DW, man. Really appreciate it. Love you, man. Appreciate it.
You too, man.
All right, y'all. Peace.
Yeah.